Hi, thank you for joining my class today. My name is Anne van Midden, I'm from the Netherlands. You can call me Anne. And today I'll be showing you how to create a natural cascade bouquet. So without any foam or wire or tape or any trick at all you need is a spiral technique and the right ingredients. So let's get started. So to create a spiral bouquet, you take your first flower and then add a second flower in at a 30-degree angle. Sort of, you don't have to measure it. Give it a quarter turn away from you and then add another stem in, beautiful fluffy Cotinus, another 30-degree angle and give it a turn away from you. So this way you're building a very nice spiral with a very neat and small handle. So I'm using quite thick stems today. I have lots of roses and dahlias and they don't have the narrow stems. By using the spiral, my handle will still be small and tidy. And the stems will support each other. They're not crushing each other, they're leaning on each other. So you want to choose a direction for your stems, in this case away from me, and follow the same direction throughout your bouquet. So don't go crisscrossing or change directions all of a sudden because it will mess up your spiral. So just keep adding flowers at the same angle and keep turning so you're working on all sides. I'm layering in these 2 stems of phlox as one to make sure they have a bit more impact than on their own. They're a bit small on their own. I'm building on the base of my bouquet first, but I'm making sure to incorporate some of the flowers that I want to use in the trail part of the cascade. And just to make sure it feels like one bouquet instead of a round bouquet with just a trail slapped on it. So you want to think about these things and think about what can I use for the cascade part, what ingredients do I have in mind for that, and can I use some of those ingredients in the main part of the bouquet, or at least incorporate the color of those ingredients in the rest of the bouquet. So it feels cohesive and like one beautiful flowy bouquet. I'm trimming my stems along the way just to make sure the weight of the stems doesn't weigh my flowers down. The roses, for example, they have really heavy stems, so they can kind of pull your flower down in the bouquet and really change the shape. So if you clip your stems every now and then, it will save a lot of pressure on your hands and it avoids shape shifting. I have some beautiful cosmos from our local cutting garden. Lemon apricot or apricot lemon, I'm not sure about the name. But I want to incorporate those as my floaty flowers and make sure they are hovering over the rest of my bouquet. So I'm placing them a bit higher than the rest of my flowers, just to make sure they have plenty of space to move and to dance around. I'm gonna add some foliage. I have some lovely foraged hop vines that I really want to use in the cascade part. So I'm making sure to add some of those stems into the main part of the bouquet, just to make sure it feels cohesive. I'm gonna trim this because it's the sad little dead part. I like how this moves. I'm gonna push it between my flowers a little bit. Sticky vines. If you have very sensitive skin, then hops is probably not the best ingredient for you to use. You can substitute this with something like jasmine vines or smilax or whatever is available to you and in your climate and season. I'm gonna break up my soft pastel palettes and add a fiery dahlia, because I want something that looks like it's late summer, early autumn. And I'm making sure to incorporate this red throughout the rest of my bouquet, so it won't stay with this single red dahlia. So now that I have a base for my bouquet, I'm gonna work on the cascade part, and maybe I'll add some finishing touches to the back in the end, but for now I really want to work on that cascade shape. So I'm doing that by adding in stems at the same angle that I've been using so far, only forgetting about the spiraling and just adding on one side. It's really important that you follow the line that you've used so far to make sure your stems don't go crisscrossing and you mess up your very neat and small handle. So add them in at the same angle. You don't have to turn anymore because you're just working on this side. Now the single most important thing about cascade bouquets, the ones without any tricks and foam and wire, is ingredient choice. So if you're working with stiff stems like this stalk and the roses, then I can add them in at any angle that I want, but they're not creating a natural curve, they're just stiff. So you want to find ingredients that have a natural flow downwards and that work for you, that will create your cascade for you. So I have this beautiful piece of Cotinus that I saved for the cascade because it has a lovely natural curve. So if I add this in, you can see it has a beautiful movement downwards. It doesn't feel stiff, there's lots of movement in here. The stems can work with my curve. And the same goes for this Phlox. I've been saving some pieces of Phlox for the cascade part because this has a lovely curve and it has a really, really long stem. So that means you get some color down in your tail. So if I only have short stems with color, then you can get some color in your bouquet, but the longer the stem, the more color there is down in your bouquet. So I have some vines too, some glorious black-eyed Susan vines with beautiful red flowers that will match with my red dahlia. So I want, ooh, it smells like chocolate. Oh, that's nice. So chocolate smelling vines are optional, but highly recommended. So if you add vines like this in, then you get the color of the flowers in the low part of your bouquet. And you can see, maybe I'm not adding the dahlia in down low, but they will match with the dahlia. So you're bringing back the color from your main bouquet with these flowering vines. And of course my hops are beautiful flowy cascadey elements. So these are some of the ingredients that I plan to use on the cascade part. So keep in mind that if you want to make a cascade bouquet, that ingredient choice is really, really, really the most important thing. Yeah, so find proper ingredients. That's really the best tip I can give you. Find things that create that natural curve downwards for you. So you don't have to work as hard and it will look like a beautiful natural cascade bouquet without all the tricks and the wire and the fuzz and the time. So find good ingredients. Usually for me, local flowers are really the best option for cascade bouquets, especially from local flower farmers where I can cut myself, where I can explain, hey, I'm building this, do you have something like that? So wholesale flowers are usually quite stiff, so you want to find some beautiful local ingredients for the cascade part of your bouquet. I actually have a dahlia that has a lovely curve from the local cutting garden, and I can easily incorporate this because you can see it has some very cool bounce and a lovely movement downwards. It has a very flexible stem. So if I add this in, I can even incorporate a dahlia down in low. So local blooms really are your friend when you're building a bouquet like this. And vines. Vines are the best ingredient. Something that really helps me when I'm building a bouquet is designing in front of a mirror. Especially with cascade bouquets because you want to keep an eye on the overall shape and it's really hard to see the cascade shape when you're standing on top of it. You can get so focused on the details that you forget to look at the overall shape, and designing in front of a mirror really helps in keeping an eye on how the bouquet looks in total, not just the little details that we like to focus on. I'm going to edit out some of the leaves of my hop because I find them a bit too bulky and too distracting. So again, I'm looking in my mirror, I'm seeing this green blob emerging here. So I'm just going to trim a few of the leaves to make sure it stays light and elegant. You can make this as long as you want. If you want to add a longer piece of vine and have a real dramatic bouquet that's like a meter long, you totally can. One thing I'm noticing about the cascade is that there's a bit of a gap here, and I really want this cream color to continue into the trail. So I'm going to add some of my Phlox, my beautiful long stem Phlox, into the trail part. And you can see this really helps the cream color to travel downwards. It also is a really good bridge flower between my cream and pink tones and the dahlia because of the dark hearts of the Phlox. So a really great addition. I put my bouquet down for a little while, and when I came back, a few things stood out to me. I'm going to talk about those things first, and then I'm going to work on them to fix the problems that I noticed. So one is this area where there are a few stems visible of my Dahlia, my Cotinus. They are quite clear lines, and the human eye really has a tendency to follow lines. So if you keep this out in the open, then people will probably look at these lines first and then at the bouquet, at the flowers. And it's really kind of a dark gap. So if this would be photographed, this would really draw your attention in the wrong way. So we're gonna fix that. Another thing I noticed is that when I take a photo, and I usually take like a simple photo with my phone to see how the bouquet looks if a photographer would capture it. And on the photo, this area looks a bit flat. In real life, it's really pretty. But probably on camera, it looks pretty flat too. So we're going to put some higher flowers here to make sure it doesn't feel like this bouquet ends in kind of a cliff on the backside. There's definitely lots of beautiful flowers on the backside, but we want to raise them a bit so you can see them when the bouquet is held in this cascade shape. So I'm gonna work on this area a little bit. And then the final thing is this beautiful Cotinus fluff. I absolutely adore this fluff. Really love it. But it's hiding my beautiful dahlia. There's a really glorious dahlia underneath. So that's another thing I want to work on. So my dahlia still is visible. So I'm probably gonna move maybe one or both pieces of this Cotinus. So just a little feedback on my own bouquet. I think you can really learn from feedback too. So it really helps to put your bouquet down for a little while and then come back and see what stands out, because you're so zoomed in when you're making it. You're like focusing on all the little tiny details and then kind of forgetting about the complete picture. Yeah, so step away, or maybe have someone else hold it for you if you have someone near. That's really awesome. It really helps. Maybe there's a mirror in your bedroom and you can check how the bouquet looks when you're holding it. It's so different how someone else sees it versus how you see it from above. Very different perspective. So from above, I didn't notice these things that I noticed when I put it down and walked away and then came back and looked at it again. So, going to fix my little problems. They're not really problems, but things that are bothering me. So first I'm going to work on this Cotinus because I think it's a really easy fix. I'm gently lifting these stems out of my bouquet and I'm twisting a little bit just to make sure they go out easily. If your spiral is neat and all your stems face the same direction, this should be really easy. Also, you want your stems to be completely stripped of any weird side shoots, leaves, little buds, like this dahlia would take off this bud because it's not going to do anything anyway. So then you can raise your stems easily out of your bouquet. So a spiral is good for so many reasons. Now I still want some cute little fluff here, but I don't want it to cover my dahlia, so I'm gonna move it a little bit. Also, remember I want the back to be a bit higher, so I'm using the issue of one problem to fix one of my other problems. So I'm gently twisting it back in, again through my spiral. And then I'm gonna raise my dahlia, move this one a little bit. And I am making sure that all my flowers have different levels. So these dahlias are now on the same height. So I want to see if I can raise this more. No, then I'm gonna lower it because I don't want them to be on the same level. If you can lay your hand flat on your bouquet and you're touching every flower, then there's probably not enough depth in your bouquet. So that's something you want to pay attention to. And this is the perfect time to raise some flowers, to lower some flowers. If you haven't binded it yet, they can just go in any direction that you want. Well, up and down, that is. So yeah, this is really the time for all those finishing touches, because if you do that while you're making it, you'll probably lose a lot of time on it, because they will move a little bit as you go anyway. My dahlia, my rose, and my other dahlia and rose, they all have the same color, and they're pretty similar in terms of the fullness and the size and the width. So we want to break that up a little bit with some cute Phlox. Otherwise it's like this giant blob of soft pink. It's a beautiful blob, but you want a bit more diversity and a bit more depth in your bouquet. Okay, that's my center problem solved. You can see my dahlia again, the Cotinus fluff is not taking over. So I'm gonna work on this little gap area now. See what I can insert to hide those stems without overcrowding the cascade, because you don't want a bulky cascade. I think maybe some amaranth will help. Trim the stems a little bit, because otherwise they are way too long. Making sure to follow the line of my spiral at all times. I'm going to add something here because this transition is not as flowy as I want. I think this stock will be perfect here. Still following the line of my spiral. So just adding it in to the side, loosening my grip a bit. I'm adding it in just to soften the transition into the cascade a little bit. So now that my cascade gap is fixed too, I'm going to work on the back side. Like I said, there are flowers in here, but they are not really visible, so I want to add some longer stems in the back. Adding them in the spiral. I added quite a few flowers in the back to make the bouquet more round instead of the steep drop we had before. Now the only downside of this beautiful bouquet is that I haven't used my black-eyed Susan vines that smell like chocolate. So I'll just save these for me. Maybe just one piece of hop here. I think all my problems are solved bouquet-wise. So I'm going to bind it. I have some bind wire and clippers. And I'm going to bind it on the place where I've been holding it for the entire time to make sure the shape stays the same. If you bind it higher or lower, your shape may change. And you probably don't want that to happen after all that work. So just twist the ends around each other. Easy does it. You can use rubber bands or twine or whatever you have on hand. Now, if you want to add some extra drama to your bouquet, you can add a ribbon. I have a beautiful hand-dyed silk ribbon here. Now, this is better with two people. Bear with me. So this ribbon really picks up the orange and the cream tones in the flowers. You can really enhance your flowers by choosing a different color ribbon. You can even enhance the red dahlias by using a dark red or maybe even a velvet ribbon. That would be cool too. That would take it more towards an autumn bouquet. I went for a late summer, early autumn bouquet, so slightly focusing more on the lighter tones. So I added some reds, but not a lot of them to make sure it doesn't feel too autumny and too dark. That's it for this class. I hope it took away some of the mystery around cascade bouquets, and that it will prove to you that you don't need a foam holder, you don't need wire, you don't need tape, you don't need to mess around with water tubes that will guarantee leak everywhere. All you need is the spiral technique and proper ingredients. Cannot say it enough, ingredients really make or break a cascade bouquet. If you try to do this with stiff stems instead of curvy, bendy, drapey ones, then the bouquet will fight you every step of the way, and you'll probably get so frustrated you'll walk away from making them forever. Which is something you really don't want to do, because it's like a fairy tale to hold these, to have a waterfall of flowers cascading from your hand. It's like a dream. So I really hope that you feel confident enough to give this a try. If you do, you can always send me a photo. I'd love to see it. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me too. So thank you so much for spending your time with me. I really appreciate it. Take care and a lot of love.